Hello, and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the podcast where we break down every damn dirty minute of the Planet of the Apes movie. I'm your host, Sean, and joining me as always is my co-host, Todd. What's up, Todd?
Oh, same old, same old.
Dogs barking, planes flying over, all that.
Pretty much. That dog is, this is now Wednesday. He's been barking since Monday. He hasn't stopped.
He is a very dedicated dog.
Yes.
All right, we're going to start minute 38 with the same shot we had earlier, the medical tools, just in disarray, and ends with one of the apes saying something about their bite being septic. We're going to give a little countdown as we always do. We got 2 living humans. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that 2 are dead now. A shrewdness of ape, a gaggle of humanoids, and that's where we go. That's where we start. And we've got joining us again today is Jeff. What's up, Jeff?
Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
Man, I want to be like Jeff whenever. I want to be like Jeff when I join something that's that perfect pause of, hey, that booming voice. Damn it.
Sorry. Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
Wait, actually, Jeff, can you do it in the voice of that woman you accidentally called for the whole episode?
Hey guys, are we back?
That poor woman, she's probably our most diligent fan, and suddenly she's like, it was those bastards that woke me up.
I'm waiting for the SWAT team at any minute to come banging down the door.
Swarm.
So
right,
the first... I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, you go. Well, we're too nice to each other. All right, I'll go. So the doctor is complaining that the animals are dirty, but that doesn't mean you have to keep all your tools and instruments in disarray. You can keep a nice environment. Just because they're dirty doesn't mean you have to be dirty.
That's very true. And I know that these are human actors with very impressive ape hair sleeves on. I know their fingernails are painted to make them look like simians, but dear God, that's what hit me right away. It's like, Jesus Christ, this dude that's bitching about them being septic and nasty, and he's got those fingernails. They don't scrub down. They don't do anything.
Oh, hell, he's suns out, guns out. He's got sleeveless stuff going on. He's got hairy arms everywhere.
And in the moment when he's talking to our female doctor, did anyone feel like it was a Monty Python skit or a Saturday Night Live skit where it was doctor? Doctor? No, doctor. Yes, doctor. It's such an obvious ploy that they don't want to divulge at this point, that they want them just to be very equal, that instead of just treating it normal and calling them by their names, it's almost this derogatory, I'm going to kick you in the balls because I'm a doctor too moment. It just stood out like a sore thumb.
You do know what they call the...
Go ahead, Sean. Sorry. No. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, you do know what they call the last person who graduates from medical school?
What?
Doctor.
Nice.
I don't want to bury the headline or lead here, but and I know that Sean has his viewing capabilities. The first thing I noticed when I paused the beginning of this minute was that you get a shot of the female doctor lifting up his coverings and checking out his junk. I don't know if I don't know if you guys saw that or not. I was like, whoa.
As a matter of fact, I did. And I swear to God, the reason I didn't make this note was that my daughter was in the room at that point, and I was like, I was self-conscious of sitting there going, is she looking at his wiener? It's like, you almost expect her to reach down and go, cough. Well, no, I noticed that too. And the film does have those moments every once in a while where it's, after the astronauts go swimming earlier, Jeff, they're running around naked before they put on the space poncho and all that stuff. And you do kind of get some of the natives kind of looking and going, hey, look at that. So we're not afraid to look at junk.
Maybe he's an impressive specimen. Who knows?
No, please.
Now, what you were talking about earlier, Todd, with the female being so clean, yeah, I mean, they got nice shaved legs in this shot.
I thought the same thing. And they're absolutely stunningly beautiful legs, and there's not a bit of hair on them. Now, as a production designer, you can sit there and say, if we make them look natural and they're hairy and the apes are hairy, we're drawing too direct of a correlation of the descendancy of humans from apes. Bullshit. She's apparently had a bikini wax. She's ready to go in her little leotard, her native savage leotard. And the most that this woman can look like she's been in the wild is literally somebody went with a medicine dropper and dropped 3 little droplets of sweat on her brow.
Oil-based sweat, which I hate. Ugh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I also noticed in this minute that it's the first time we start to hear about the hierarchy, the idea of the species of apes, some looking down upon. Because we start hearing that a Dr. Zaius hates chimps. We know that there's hatred even within there. There's a racism. I'm going to turn my nose upon you and look down at you.
I was noticing also that the male doctor is talking about, these creatures think and they carry communicable, I can say the word, diseases. But again, they don't care about any sort of sterilization process or wearing gloves. So why, where is their concern? They carry diseases, but we're not worried about catching those diseases.
And they're also not too worried about the humans breaking out, because the shackling of Taylor and our female hoochie is, let's put some leather bands around their ankles, and then the least restrictive band around their forehead. And other than that, their hands and their torsos are completely free. So you dumbass, that may be why you got bitten. You might want to think about really strapping them down.
Yeah, I think in some ways there's some parallels, and maybe this is something that they, the writers and directors and everything, were thinking about. But hearing you guys talk about them, complain about how dirty everything is, it just kind of paints the picture of the modern day workplace. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
We are like, man, when are they going to clean this sink, or man, the refrigerator's all gooky or whatever. But we complain, but we don't do anything about it.
No, we don't. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm looking at it now, and I can literally see straw that's come from the prisoner's cage that's all the way into the setting that they're working in now. I mean, it's just pigsty.
Nice.
So for me in this moment, because I like to set the context of what the film meant. For 1968, that's a pretty audacious moment, though, when we get the 2-shot of the 2 doctors talking to each other, showcasing John Chambers' makeup work. The fact that no lips don't move, they don't enunciate, but it looks like apes. It looks like 2 apes are talking to each other. So for 1968, I'm sure audiences were just looking at this and thinking, holy crap, This is amazing.
Those are really apes.
And they're very hairy and nasty.
I wonder if they had to over-enunciate to make the masks open their mouths wide enough to actually look like they're talking.
This is jumping ahead to someone who will be in it later, but Roddy McDowall, I know I read with him that he was very particular in the early days of when he got his makeup on, that he would look into the mirror and you'll see it. He does some of the best work with kind of ape mannerisms. And he would do that exact thing, Sean. He would over enunciate to really get it to play. And from what I understand, the other ape actors followed him, much like, in the current films, how a lot of people learn from Andy Serkis with motion capture. It was the same kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did do a little research. The female doctor, she says she's an animal psychologist, and I didn't think that was a real thing, because how do you do psychology on animal? But it's animal psychologists apply the principles and theories surrounding animal behavior to study how animals interact with one another, the environment, and human beings. So it's an actual thing. I did not know that.
In other words, it's bullshit. Sorry, I say that as the son of a psychologist. All that
that's
wacky
true.
stuff.
I didn't think about that.
And Jeff has, is it your dad that was a psychologist, Jeff?
Still is. He still
is.
is.
Is he?
But I'll make sure he listens to this and gets your and here's your.
I meant retirement. I didn't mean anything like that, you asshole.
They're trying to kill you off, Pop.
Yeah, I told you that friend of mine, Todd, the one I just saw down in Texas? Yeah, he asked me to make sure you're dead. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yes, I thought it was.
Oh God,
I thought it was interesting too that they introduced the psychology, which, going back and touching on what you guys are talking about, the makeup and everything. This is obviously 1968. I thought was done very well, and I think here, at least for me, really touched some nice writing. They had to establish. They had to keep it short. I mean, it's obviously we're talking about a minute here, but I thought the dialogue was well written here, and then in trying to establish a hierarchy, like you talked about, Todd, where he was complaining because he could not get the gear that she gets, and obviously he's kind of stuck in working in the same conditions as the prisoners. But again, not being familiar with the film, just in this minute, of course, I watched it a couple times. It did a great job of establishing that, and I think there's a tip of the cap that's owed there as far as that.
And to that point, I think, and this goes back to something you said about juxtapose this onto current work conditions. We bitch about things, but we don't clean it up. I think what the scene does a fantastic job of is establishing that these apes are essentially humans. They have human concerns and human needs because Dr. Zayas isn't paying attention. He's not giving him the things he needs. We know he hates that. It feels like a conversation that happens at the workplace, which is no one's listening to me. I can't go and I need to get ahead. So immediately we can identify with them. So you're right. I think from a writing standpoint, it is the ground leveling scene. If anything, we're almost 40 minutes in, and finally we understand that yes, we're on a planet with apes, but the apes are essentially humans. So there's that weird. He's hearing Taylor's going to hear apes talk. He's going to experience all these things. Yet the conversations he's hearing are relatively the same to what he may have heard when he left Earth all the thousands of years ago.
Yep.
That's why he was happy to leave.
Yeah, well, he hated Earth to begin with, so screw him.
Well, that wraps it up for me. How about you guys?
Jeff?
Oh, yeah, that wraps up. That's all I got on this one.
Yep, me too.
All right. Well, Jeff, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, man, you guys are so kind. TheOtherKindRadio.com, TheOtherKindRadio.com.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this 8 Minute. We want to ask you to go to our website, MotaApes.com, and if you want to reach us, you can hit us up at podcast@MotaApes.com. You can get, if you rate, review, subscribe, all that social media junk, we'd really appreciate it. So for this minute, I'm Sean, and as always, Todd, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.